The Untold Story of Osama bin Laden. Osama bin Muhammad bin Awad bin Laden was born on March 10, 1957, in Riyadh, Saudi Arabia, into one of the wealthiest families in the kingdom. His father, Mohammed bin Laden, was a Yemeni-born construction magnate and founder of the Saudi Bin Laden Group, which maintained close ties to the Saudi royal family. Growing up, Osama enjoyed the privileges of wealth but was deeply influenced by conservative Islamic teachings. He studied at King Abdulaziz University in Jeddah, where he was exposed to radical Islamist ideologues such as Abdullah Azzam and the writings of Sayyid Qutb, a radical Egyptian thinker who inspired generations of Islamists with his call to fight jahiliyyah, ignorance, and Western influence. Though he came from luxury, Osama chose asceticism. He avoided many of the pleasures enjoyed by his half-brothers and cousins and embraced a strict, puritanical version of Islam. This personal rigidity would later become the ideological core of his global jihad. The Soviet invasion of Afghanistan in 1979 marked a pivotal point in Osama's life. Inspired by Azzam, he left Saudi Arabia to support the Mujahideen fighting against the communist regime and its Soviet backers. While many Arab volunteers went to fight, Osama focused on logistics and funding. He established the Maktab al-Khidamat Services Office in Pakistan to recruit, train, and finance Arab fighters. With his family's wealth and support from Islamic charities, Osama constructed training camps, built hospitals, and even dug tunnels for supply routes. His efforts gained him admiration among the Afghan and Arab fighters. In 1986, during the Battle of Jaji, Osama directly participated in combat against Soviet forces, earning him battlefield credibility. This experience radicalized him further and convinced him of the power of Islamic resistance. By 1988, as the Soviets were preparing to withdraw, Osama founded Al-Qaeda, the base. Initially a small network of hardened Islamist fighters with the goal of defending Muslims and waging jihad globally. The Gulf War of 1990 was a turning point. When Saddam Hussein invaded Kuwait, Osama offered to defend Saudi Arabia with his Afghan veterans. The royal family's rejection, and their decision to invite U.S. forces onto Saudi soil, infuriated him. To him, the presence of infidel troops in the land of the two holiest Islamic sites was a betrayal of Islam. He publicly condemned the House of Saud and was swiftly silenced. In 1991, he fled to Sudan, then ruled by Islamist leader Hassan al-Turabi, who welcomed Islamist revolutionaries. There, Osama established businesses to fund terrorist activity and expanded al-Qaeda's reach by supporting insurgents across Africa, Yemen, and the Middle East. In Sudan, he began laying the groundwork for his global terror network. But international pressure mounted, and in 1996, the Sudanese government expelled him. He returned to Afghanistan, now ruled by the Taliban, and formed a deep alliance with its leader, Mullah Omar. In Afghanistan, bin Laden was free to operate without interference. He issued his first fatwa in 1996, declaring war against the United States for its occupation of Muslim lands. In 1998, he co-signed a second fatwa with Ayman al-Zawahiri, stating, "The ruling to kill the Americans and their allies, civilians and military, is an individual duty for every Muslim." This marked the beginning of al-Qaeda's global jihad. In August 1998, al-Qaeda operatives bombed U.S. embassies in Kenya and Tanzania, killing over 200 people. These attacks brought Osama to international attention. President Bill Clinton responded with cruise missile strikes on Afghan camps, Operation Infinite Reach, but bin Laden survived. On September 11, 2001, 19 al-Qaeda hijackers executed a coordinated attack on the United States. 4 commercial planes were hijacked. 2 struck the Twin Towers of the World Trade Center, 1 hit the Pentagon, and the 4th crashed in Pennsylvania after passengers intervened. Nearly 3,000 people died. The attack was the culmination of years of planning. The hijackers trained in Afghanistan, received flight instruction in the U.S., and were financed through complex money transfers. Osama bin Laden claimed responsibility. In a video released later, he said, "We calculated in advance the number of casualties, based on the position of the towers. The world was shocked." The U.S. launched Operation Enduring Freedom to overthrow the Taliban and eliminate al-Qaeda. As U.S. and coalition forces entered Afghanistan, bin Laden fled to the mountains of Tora Bora. For weeks, he evaded capture, likely slipping into Pakistan through remote mountain passes. Despite CIA intelligence and support from local militias, bin Laden escaped. Some blame U.S. reluctance to deploy ground troops. He vanished into Pakistan's tribal belt, shielded by local allies and a culture of silence. For nearly a decade, bin Laden lived a ghost-like existence. Rumors placed him in caves, safe houses, or even dead. Occasionally, he released videos and audio messages, urging Muslims to wage jihad and criticizing U.S. foreign policy. He remained the most wanted man in the world. The U.S. raised his bounty to $25 million. While hiding, bin Laden watched the world change. The U.S. invaded Iraq in 2003. Al-Qaeda franchises emerged in Yemen, North Africa, and Iraq. But the group he founded began fracturing. New jihadi groups like ISIS eventually rivaled his legacy. Bin Laden, once the face of global terror, became increasingly irrelevant. In 2010, the CIA tracked a trusted bin Laden courier, Abu Ahmed al-Kuwaiti, to a compound in Abbottabad, Pakistan. His house stood out. It was unusually fortified, had no internet or phone connections, and burned its trash. After months of surveillance, U.S. intelligence concluded that bin Laden was likely inside. President Barack Obama authorized a covert operation. On May 2, 2011, 24 Navy SEALs from SEAL Team 6 flew into Abbottabad via stealth helicopters. They stormed the compound, killed bin Laden, and retrieved intelligence materials. The operation lasted under 40 minutes. Bin Laden's body was flown to the USS Carl Vinson and buried at sea within 24 hours, in accordance with Islamic tradition. The world reacted with a mix of relief and reflection. Crowds gathered at Ground Zero and outside the White House to celebrate. But questions remained. How had he lived undetected in a Pakistani garrison town? What would become of al-Qaeda? His death was a symbolic blow, but not the end of terrorism. Al-Qaeda still exists, but more localized. The mantle of jihadism passed to newer, more brutal groups like ISIS. Bin Laden's legacy remains contested. To followers, a martyr. To the world, a mass murderer. His ideology continues to inspire lone wolves and militant cells. Osama bin Laden was not a mere terrorist. He was a product of global politics, religious radicalism, and post-colonial wounds. His rise was fueled by war, ignorance, and grievance. His fall, by relentless intelligence work and justice. The world he left behind is not safer, but it is more aware. His life warns of what happens when ideology turns to violence, and belief becomes bloodshed. If you enjoyed the video, please like, share and subscribe.